What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video I want to talk about the DJI OSMO Action, how I set this up as my studio recording device to record videos here in the studio, what accessories do I have in addition to the camera, and my exact settings which I'm using right now to record this video. Now, when you're searching on YouTube for the best DJI OSMO Action, the best GoPro settings, you will get a lot of different settings, a lot of different videos where people are showing you a lot of different settings. But there's no right or wrong when it comes to settings for your action camera. It's just for the different type of scenarios. And I struggled to find a video which was really informative when it comes to setting up your action camera as your studio device, recording your studio videos. So that's what I want to share with you today, so you can easily use your action camera as your studio recording device. So first, let's jump over to the accessories and how I've set up the OSMO Action to record this video. Now, on the left side here, you can see that I have a microphone. This is the Rode Video Micro, and this is attached to an adapter called Synova. And this is an adapter for the DJI OSMO Action, which allows you to connect your external microphone to the OSMO Action. And it also has a charging port, USB Type-C, on the bottom, so you can charge whilst you have the microphone attached to the OSMO Action. Now, on the top here, you can see that I have some sort of a vlogging light, but this is actually the Aperture multicolored RGB LED plate, and this is so versatile because you can use this to record your B-rolls. You can change the color of it, so you have all the different colors, you have effects, and you can use this to spice up your video if you want to have different lighting on your face, like when you're outside. Whatever you want to do, you can do that with this color, which is really nice. Now, on the bottom here, I have the Manfrotto quick release plate with the mount for it as well, which allows me to take this off and just mount it on some of the other accessories and tripods I have, which also have this type of mount. And underneath that, I have the Joby GorillaPod Focus. Now, this also came with a ball head, but I'm using that for something else. And this setup really works well because I'm able to kind of tilt the OSMO Action anyway with the accessory which is mounted to it. Now, in front of me and behind the camera, I have the Godox SL60 LED studio light, and I also have the Godox softbox, which allows me to get more natural light into the scene here, which is also better for the camera and the quality of your video. Now, let's say if you don't have a studio light like this and you don't want to get one either, you just want to have the vlogging light which is on top of the camera, and that's the only thing that you want to have for your studio because you have a minimalistic setup and you can't really have big and massive items in your office. Now, let's illustrate that and turn this off. Now you can see that the quality is more or less the same, but you have more grain in the image here. You should have more grain in the image, but there is a few settings that you can adjust, and you can also remove this in post-production. Now, let's move over to the app here, and let me show you the settings that I have dialed in here. So if we go over to video settings, I have dewarp on. This is because I don't want this to be so stretched out. Rocksteady is off because then I get a wider view. Rocksteady kind of crops things in, and I want this to be as wide as possible, so Rocksteady is off. And my custom white balance for this is 5600, and my ISO is set to 800, but I highly recommend that you choose a maximum of ISO to 400, and then you get some really good lighting for your studio, because the lower the ISO you have, the better your video will look, and you achieve that with the proper lighting in your studio. Now, moving down to color, everything that you see now is normal color. It's a little bit back and forth with the color grading applied, but this which you're seeing right now, it's the normal raw color coming from the DJI OSMO Action. Moving down to grid, I like to have grids on. Overexposure and histogram alerts are also on. And as you can see here on the screen now, we have the overexposure showing the zebras down in the yellow light, and we have the histogram on the top corner. Now, I like to have this as I'm recording here in the studio because this has more functions to it. Like, I see the zebras here, I don't do that on the screen on the OSMO Action, so having this as your monitor is really helpful. Now let's move over to the manual settings here, or the settings itself, and you can see here I chose manual over auto. And the reason for that is because I want to have some sort of control over everything in the camera. And ISO is still set to auto because I want, in case I change scenes or place the camera somewhere else, I want to have the ISO adjusting itself up to a maximum of 4 to 800, which the camera is doing when I'm turning this on and off. You can see the adjustments, especially here. Now the shutter speed is set to 1/50th. That's because I'm recording this video in 4K 24 FPS, and the exposure value is -0.7, and that's because of the studio light. So if I'm just going to use this vlogging light here, I want to bring this up to plus 0.7 to compensate for the dark environment. You might get a little bit more grain, but you can adjust this inside of post-production, even in LumaFusion, by taking the level slider, maybe down the midtones a little bit, and play around with the shadows, which is all the way to the left on the levels bar. Now, this is basically the only settings that I've chosen to use for this video, and ISO is auto. We could increase this a little bit as well. You could try to increase this to 800. It's a little bit higher than auto, but I really want to keep this ISO on auto so it adjusts itself. Now, this is basically the only settings that I apply. The only difference here is that I have proper lighting. So if you have this LED light here and you get a little bit closer to the camera, let's see here, you should see a fairly good image. And I'm now about 2 feet away from the lens here as well. And I recommend that you maybe stay between 2-3 feet away from the lens of the OSMO Action or any other action camera. And you can see that the video quality is quite decent. From what I'm seeing here on the screen, I look perfectly exposed, and you can also check out the histogram here as well on the top, and you see that the shadows are a bit high, but you're not overexposed. Your face is not overexposed, so it's really important to check out the histogram as well, and keep an eye that you don't want this to be all the way to the right and you want to crush the highlights. You want this to be even out as much as possible, but since I have a darker colored background here, I want this to be more towards the shadow side, towards the middle and towards the shadows, and maybe to the point where the shadows are peaking 100, which is the top of the histogram. So now if you just take this back to an exposure value of -0.7 and turn this on, I should be back to the settings which I am using when I'm recording these videos using the DJI OSMO Action. So with that said, I really hope that you found this video helpful and that you got some tips and tricks on how to set up the different things here. And we could do a video with you doing the exact same thing with the GoPro Hero 8 as well, if that is something that you're interested in. I didn't want to put that into this video because I want to keep it as short as possible. Now with that said, make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That's really appreciated. And let me know in the comment section below what you think of this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video.